John Rambo, a drifter, just passing through their town.
Morning! Headed north or south?
North.
Now jump in. I'll make sure you head in the right direction, huh?
You got someplace I can eat around here?
There's a diner about 30 miles up the highway.
Is there any law against me getting something here?
Yeah, me. I want you to book this gentleman for vagrancy, resisting arrest, carrying a concealed weapon.
They knew he was innocent.
Starting to dislike you. A lot.
And they didn't give a damn.
That's okay, Warren. Don't worry about the soap. He's tough. Just save him. Try.
Don't move. I don't want you to cut your own throat.
John Rambo, one man who's been pushed too far.
You're finished! You've gone as far as you're gonna go! Heading straight for the top. Right on top of him. There's no way out of here except through us.
He was hunted, trapped,
There he is! On the cliff!
and forced to fight back.
Don't push it. Don't push it. I'll give you a war you won't believe.
Teasel, you and all your men couldn't handle him before. Now, what makes you think you can handle him now?
Because God knows what damage he's prepared to do.
So, First Blood is actually based on a novel. And
By
there
David
was
Morrell, no less.
a lot of novels like this about sort of damaged Vietnam veterans trying to, readjust into the real world. And unsurprisingly, in its adaptation to the big screen, some major compromises were made. First of all, the ending, not to jump right to the beginning, but in order for this series to have a franchise, John Rambo necessarily needs to survive this movie.
Yeah, I don't think they were thinking franchise at the time, though.
And, well, the novel definitely wasn't.
Yeah.
But they even actually shot a version of it where he was killed.
Yep.
But they didn't end up going with it. But they also, I think, made a bit of a compromise because I'm fairly certain in the book he does murder a couple of the cops. Like, he has a flashback of being mercilessly cut when they're trying to forcibly shave him.
Yeah.
And in the movie, he beats the shit out of them and he escapes.
Yeah.
And in the book, he disembowels one of them with the razor and breaks another guy's neck or something.
I will take your word for it.
Then he escapes. And I haven't read the book. I read this article about when I was looking up on the movies anyway.
Yeah.
So I don't want to give you the impression that I've read the book, but these are the compromises that they made. Like, I think he was much crazier and much more like dangerous to the police.
Yes.
And in the movie, I think with the Brian Dennehy's character, they're trying to be a little bit balanced. Like, he's just a cop, and he thinks he's doing the right thing, and he's protecting his town, but he triggers this crazy Vietnam vet.
Yeah.
And between his actions and then the actions of his moron police force, Rambo gets triggered full on back into war mode.
Yeah.
And after the accidental, in this version, death of one of the officers, a full on manhunt goes on in these woods.
Yeah.
And they have no idea who they're dealing with at all.
Yeah.
And they're like, they're lambs to the slaughter here.
Yeah.
So I really like the approach that, like, both of the men are very flawed. Both of the men make mistakes, but in the movie, we're kind of allowed to like both of them in spite of it.
Oh, I think we sympathize with John Rambo a heck of a lot more than.
But we are allowed more access to Rambo than we are to the Brian Dennehy character.
Yep.
And he did not want any of this to happen, and it is his fault.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
All he had to do was take him to a restaurant, buy him lunch, maybe give him a room for the night. And that guy's probably gone the next day. That's one of the greatest ironies of that whole thing.
He sees this guy and correctly sees, like, this guy looks dangerous.
Sure,
And
but...
he escorts him out of the town very unpolitely.
Yes.
And Rambo decides he doesn't like being treated that way, and
Yeah.
stubbornly, stoically walks back in to go eat at the restaurant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it escalates. And I've worked with enough police officers to know, like, you can talk yourself into a cell, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What could have been just a conversation between you and a police officer can very quickly become,
Yeah.
cuffs on you. And that's sort of it, like, it needlessly escalates. But instead of it being, a night in the cells, it becomes a substantial body count.
Yep.
But I like that it at least attempts not to be completely black and white.
Yeah.
And that's sort of what gives this movie its edge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was a term for, like, post-traumatic stress. Well, it wasn't
PTSD?
popularized.
Yeah.
It wasn't a popularized term at this point, but it's exactly what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Here, and the movie is dramatically potent, and it takes itself seriously, much in the same way when we talk about Dirty Harry and the first Dirty Harry franchise.
Yeah.
Very seriously focused.
Yeah.
And for this movie, it 100% works.
Yeah.
And it establishes the character in a very strong way.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a lot to say. It's a very action-oriented movie for Stallone, but that's what he does.
I think he has a lot to say in the latter half of the movie. But
At the end of the movie, but for most of the movie, it's action. It's him doing stuff in the woods.
Yeah.
Hunting a boar, making a trap, falling through the trees.
Yes. Yeah.
It's,
climbing a mountain.
Yeah. So, it's a classic for a reason. I understand why it spawned a lot of sequels, but as we will discuss, a lot of the sequels do not resemble this in any way.
Nope.
There's no gray in the subsequent sequels. It all goes to black and white.
Yeah.
So, big fan of First Blood. That's where I start.
Well, I don't think in at least American cinema at that point, they had really sort of talked about the mental illness of PTSD, at least in relation to the Vietnam War era. This is actually loosely based off a World War II incident where the same thing happened. This drifter who had survived fighting in World War II wanted to at least come to this village, he was given not a great greeting, and then snapped. And then you stop and think about it. It's a pretty cool idea. These people are like well trained in the art of savagery killing and living out in the wilderness and whatever. It makes for a sort of almost a great monster movie in a lot of ways.
Well, and he's the difficult thing is that he's like a hero too.
Yeah.
He's like the ultimate soldier in a lot of ways.
And all he wants is a little bit of love and respect.
He gets none of it, and he is driven mad.
Yeah.
He becomes He goes from hero to monster.
Yeah, but he is made that way by the idiotic police force of this small Washington town. The first 2/3 of this movie are like thrilling. Like my heart was going boom, 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 boom. Even when Stallone was riding off in the motorcycle without the helmet, that's all him.
Yeah.
Granted, it's like pyrotechnics going off at a certain point, but then we see him climbing on like a cliff, much like this, and then like almost 10 years later, he'll do it again in Cliffhanger.
Yeah,
but
he legitimately busted his ribs jumping into the trees off of that cliff, and again, no stunt.
Like this is the time of the action hero where there are bumps and bruises and broken bones and concussions and whatnot. And I was kind of impressed with that because a lot of action films today, at least by big budget studios, there's a lot of CGI and actors jumping off mats with wires and everything.
At the risk of sounding old, one of the great things about the 10 movies you and I are talking about is there's not one fucking frame of CGI.
Yeah, like it's either stuntmen or the actors themselves doing it.
Yeah.
So I at least want to give a shout out. It made me sort of remind me of an earlier Stallone action film, Nighthawks. Do you remember that one?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like the big splash about that movie, at least in advertising of it, besides Rutger Hauer as this villain, was the big budget stunt at the end where he's dangling from this one of, I don't know, what would you call it, gondolas or whatever, that these two
wire gondola thing.
Yeah, and he is dangling from one, and in the big wires, and if it ever broke, he would fall into the river and die just from the impact. So he was generally risking his life in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And so him climbing on, that cliff, if that's him in that look of fear, that's really Stallone doing that look of fear. So where I think it kind of, for me, stopped it from being, and it's still a classic movie. You can argue whether this is a bad movie or a good movie. It is a classic movie. I do believe it is in the film registry,
Oh, yeah.
at least for aesthetic purposes. It spawned like not only the film series, but a cartoon toy line.
Well, I can't tell you if there was any bigger action franchise in small town Alberta in the 80s than Rambo. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
Until Die Hard came along.
Yeah.
Even Lethal Weapon would take second tier, I would think.
Yeah. Like the then American president, said John Rambo is a Republican.
Yes.
So in some ways he did sort of represent at least that image of. But it's that monologue, and it's that he gives at the end about how he's been treated since he's got home, and it's so beautifully done by Stallone. Like, it's actually a well written and a well acted scene.
Yes, the emotion is absolutely there, but full disclosure,
Yeah.
I almost felt like I needed to put subtitles on to get the words. Like, I lost some of his words.
Sure.
And it was because of the performance. Like,
Yeah.
it was appropriate performance-wise.
Yeah.
But I remember when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I actually lost some of the nuance. Because I've watched a lot of Stallone, I sort of feel like I understand him more. It's kind of like this is a weird comparison. It
Sure.
sounds unkind, but
Yeah.
the more you watch The Princess Bride,
Yeah.
the more you find Andre the Giant easier to understand.
Yes.
Because you attune to his ways.
Well, Stallone actually has a medical condition where like his mouth is not fully formed. I think he has like a vocal tick.
Right.
So that just
Well, I don't mean to disparage him that way.
No,
and I
no.
do think that the scene is absolutely strong and it does work.
Yeah.
But
It
I
should
think
have
some of
happened.
the words are lost.
I agree with you. I think it shouldn't have happened at all, or it should have happened earlier in the film and by himself, like in the jungle, having him kind of like really. We see the psychosis start to happen in him, and maybe have that. I think a more appropriate ending where like Stallone comes out and the town's on fire, like it's just destroyed, and Richard Crenna, what's his like commander?
That's his commanding officer.
He says, time to go home, John, and like Stallone goes, "Where is home?" Like, and then end credits.
Right.
I think it was just one step too much for me. And then it would have been like like I'm talking like a really really classic action thriller. It's still very good, very serious. The stunt work like is amazing if you stop and look about like that's all Stallone doing that stuff, and I just go wow.
Well, I think Richard Crenna is kind of a big actor, was always kind of a big actor, but in a way he was very appropriate for this role. Like, his bigness works against Stallone, so I think it was a case of good casting in that particular stunt. I like that the cops become their own worst enemy. Like, they awaken this demon. But, like, the monster was there. They poked the monster, right? Yeah. So, like, he came with all of this danger in there. And that's the interesting question of the movie that the other movies are, again, not going to touch. Like, when he's back in the jungle, when he's back in the thick of it, when he's back at war, is he in some way happier? Like,
yes.
This is what he knows. This is what he knows how to do.
Yep.
These guys are not even a serious threat to him. And that is interesting. Like,
Oh no, I mean that. I think that's something that the book at least tried to. I'm guessing at least tried to explore. This is more of a thriller than like they've talked about trying to remake this more than once, and that might. They would really have to change, like make this more into almost a horror thriller, where you like John Rambo still is kind of the anti-hero, but as psycho. Well, he is a psychopath, but I'm really make him scarier. Yeah.
The biggest of the asshole cops, the guy who gets the fall out of the helicopter and is like really getting off on torturing him with the fire hose and everything in the precinct, is a guy named Jack Starrett. Or Jack Starrett. He directed a film called Ride with the Devil. Did you see that one? They're all in a motorhome and they encounter Satanists on the highway.
No, I've not yet.
I think like in the way he was supposed to represent like the worst of the police. I think like the Brian Dennehy character flawed but not evil is the way I always saw him.
He soon realizes his own stupidity and what it's cost.
The David Caruso character and that whole gang, yokels, good old boys, flawed,
Yeah.
but not evil.
Yes.
Star it,
Yeah.
evil.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the guy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think you were saying you wanted to see more of the psychological falling apart of Rambo in the woods.
Yeah.
I wanted to see Dennehy's side of it a little bit more. Because I just really like that actor.
No, I like Dennehy too. All right,
He's
rest in
just
peace,
always
by the
at a
way.
slow boil.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's not showing you, but you feel it coming
Yeah.
from him.
Yeah.
This is all his fault, and he fucking knows it. He
Yeah.
won't admit it. He can't say it out loud,
Yeah,
but it
but
is
he knows.
his
Yeah.
fault, and he needs to personally put this thing to bed just for his own sense of well-being.
Mm-hmm.
And even though he's the villain, he's our adversary structurally in the movie.
Yeah.
I kind of feel for him to his limited degree.
Okay.
And I like that, he gets his legs taken out, literally, and he is completely bettered by Rambo.
Yep.
In one of those cases, and I've said this before in the podcast, where our adversary is defeated but not killed.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yep. Yep.
And in a lot of action movies, it doesn't work. I mean, we've had
Yeah.
this conversation before, too, where some guy kills 100 minions
Yeah.
to get to the big bad, and then is like, you're not worth it.
Yeah.
That pisses me
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
This is a nice compromise,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, his life is left shattered.
Yeah.
He's not walking away unclean from this.
No.
So, in some ways, his fate might be worse.
But I think that my guess is that they would have spent more time on that in the book. And if I think given equal weight to these two adversaries and us having mixed feelings about both of them, that really would make it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, you can't really disparage First Blood. It is one of the great action movies of the 80s.
Yeah. Well, I was surprised how well made it was. Just because my memory of the Rambo films are loud explosion and very cartoonish.
Yeah.
Where this
Not this one.
Not this one. Like this is a thrill act. Like I'll say thriller and then action. I do love the look on Dennehy's face when the first police officer is killed, and he's just like, oh,
yeah.
That's the moment he realizes that it's really gone out of control.
Yeah.
It was already bad when the character escaped and and that gas station exploded and everything. But that was like now people are dead, and that's when different law enforcement is brought in.
And again, like asshole or not, they've worked together for a long time.
Yeah.
And it's never good
Yeah.
to have a death undo. So I like that I love the gray of the movie, and I wish that going forward in the franchise we had more of that.
Yep. No, I agree. I even sort of had like what would you say, villain or hero for John Rambo?
Like, again, I think he makes that sort of metamorphosis. He was a hero, and he becomes a villain, but in that weird, like, inexplicable to him falling down kind of way, like, I'm the bad guy?
Yep.
But the police came and fucked with me, and, like, all I know how to do is defend myself, and so that's what I did.
Yeah.
But you're not in the jungle, you're not in Vietnam,
Yeah.
you're not taking orders from anybody anymore.
Yeah.
You're back in the quote-unquote real world.
Yeah.
And because of how damaged you are by what would happen to you, I don't think that registers. I think he's still at war. I think Rambo's always at war.
Yeah.
Like, until Last Blood. Even when he's sitting on his front porch in New Mexico or whatever, he is still fucking at war.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, these two are maturing candidates.
Yeah.
They are addicted to violence. They secretly want it. They are, in fact,
How did he
created serial killers.
How did he happen to bump into these human traffickers?
Yeah.
Well, maybe he just put himself there.
That's what I'm saying.
But that's a question for another movie. Is
Yeah.
there anything more we should say about First Blood?
No, First Blood is fucking awesome.